Testing, testing, testing. JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. April 14th, 2023. Got my computer going, so now hopefully the audio is a little better than yesterday. Um, Really quick, not going to talk too long. Don't have much to really talk about besides what happened with BlackRock, the bank earnings. Take a look at gold this morning. Tried to play gold last Friday. Started to go the right direction, then bounced. Here it looks like there's going to be some follow through. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Earnings next week, Netflix Tuesday after the close. You have Intuitive Surgical, you have Tesla, then you have some more banks, Bank of America. I'm trying to think the other bank that reports. Johnson & Johnson reports. So it'll be interesting. And then things really start to heat up the next week in regards to earnings. A lot of the data is already out there. So the last piece of data that really could kind of move markets before the Fed meeting on May 2nd and May 3rd would be the PCE data. So we'll get that. I don't even know when that's supposed to come out, but I think it's the week before. I think it's the Friday before the Fed meeting. So will be interesting to say the least. But so BlackRock was on the watch list this entire week. It's one of those names that has some nice moves, usually after earnings. Before earnings, and I went and did some research, it has not moved more than 4% after earnings since at least 2000, I think it's 2011. So I went back and looked. That was the largest move was like 3.98%. So meaning, let's say the stock opened at $600, it closed at $622, right? So if it was 4%, it'd be 624, but it has not moved, it has not closed more than 4% higher or lower since at least 2000, let's say 2011. So one of these days, you have to think it's maybe, it's gonna surprise. And if it surprises, that means there's opportunity to make some money on the call or put side. So it was churning around the 678, 682 range in the morning. The earnings were they were good, but if you look at the headlines, it says, BlackRock earnings declined year-over-year basis. It falls 19%. Their revenues are falling year-over-year, but they bested estimates. So it could be one of those relief rally situations. The stock has sold off quite a bit, and I think a lot of that has to do with the Silicon Valley bankruptcy, all the other stuff going in the regional bank sector. So it kind of got pulled down just because it's part of that sector, needlessly, to say the least. And so got the calls, lucked out. I wouldn't say lucked out, but rallied all the way up to 704. I have a couple calls left. I'm probably going to hold them as long as if it holds 690. I think it has a shot, especially into the afternoon. Maybe it gets to 705, 710. That 700 handle seems to be strong resistance, so we'll be watching that closely. Market's not helping here, reversing from 415 on the SPY. We're down here at 412. So that's BlackRock. The second is gold. Here it is at 208. Tried to play the gold for downside. At some point, it's going to go down to 1950. I'm not saying it's I'm not a gold bug, so when I look at gold, I always think there's downside possibilities as opposed to upside. So if I ever play gold, it's usually to the downside. Tried to play it on Friday. Gold came all the way down to I think it was 2015, bounced all the way up to 230, closed at 2026. And then this week started to rally. You had the better than expected, or the cooler numbers on CPI, the cooler than expected PPI numbers on Thursday. Gold found a bid, and here it is selling off on a strong US dollar. So I think especially if it gets down to 2,000, it might break and waterfall down to 1990, 1980 today. So I'm going to hold the rest of my puts. I have the 186s. I don't even want to look what they are right now. They're 80 cents from 18 cents. So right now, I should I have held all of them? Possibly, but I don't want to be in a situation where it was last week where I didn't take profits when I had a chance and then watched it bounce. But you take a look at the action right now in gold. I think it might waterfall here under 2,000. Lots of folks and people I follow for 10, 15 years on FinTwit and Twitter, folks who I never thought would be bullish gold are bullish. And then Barron's came out with a piece this morning, bullish gold. They have some great stuff, and it's always good to have different perspectives. So I'm not saying their perspective is wrong. It's just ironic, the timing, that here it is, gold's down 2.2% after they said, gold has more room to rally. So we'll see. Short-term pullback, long-term pullback, I don't know. I'm just playing it. I only have a couple more hours till they expire, so I'll hold on. If it gets back to 215 or so, I'll lock them in. And that's GLD. VKTX, Viking Therapeutics. The short interest came out double from the previous reading. So if you know how the short interest works, NASDAQ reports the short interest on a trailing basis. So I think it's 15 days. The transfer agent has to send all the information within 5 days. Then it goes to NASDAQ, they process it. So it's a lag indicator. So the short interest reports that are out now are from March 30th. So, here we are, April 14th. There'll be a new report out. Let's see. Let me see what the next date would be. February 15th, due date, publication date. So, settlement date, April 12th. I guess we're going to find out soon. A new update. And needless to say, VKTX has a tremendous short interest now. And considering that the stock was in the single digits and now up here at $18, it's a lot more expensive, especially if you shorted at 11, 12, 13, 14. On the flip side, there's a huge amount of open interest on the call side. So some of these shorts might be nibbling on some inexpensive out-of-the-money call strikes to offset some of the losses. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I was adding up the open interest, and if you look, and the market's open now, so it's changed a little bit, but there's 61,502 calls open. So there's an open interest of 61,000 calls up through July on VKTX. And if I ended the puts, it's substantially less. It might be like 6,000. So is that folks betting for upside, some positive catalyst with the Nash data that's going to be due out anytime? It's possible. I think it trades into the low to mid 20s in the coming weeks. Went and added more later dated strikes today, and I'll probably look to lock some of my Mays in at some point just to cover costs and ride the rest. Just a great story. I mean, I can go on a rant again for 15 minutes to talk about it like I did yesterday. I'm not going to do that. So that's VKTX. Sorry, just looking at some stuff here. Cardlytics hanging in there again, up 80%, down 25, up 25, and it's kind of been churning here. If it can hold $7 in the afternoon, I might look to get some later dated strikes. I think the June's opened, so CBOE opened up more strikes on Cardlytics. So if you want to play strikes in July, there were no. Let's see here. Oh, actually, May didn't have 10 and 1250s. Now May has 10 and 1250s. And then July has 1250s, 15s, and 1750s. Me, I like risk reward, so I'd rather, if I think a stock is going to have a substantial rally to the upside, I think the better risk reward is play an inexpensive call strike, where I think if Cardlytics gets into the teens, any strike at 10 or above is going to be a 5, 10, 15 bagger. So that's kind of the thought process there. Come on, gold. Keep falling under that 2,000. So we'll have to see on Netflix. The premiums are kind of holding up. I went and got the calls into next week to play for some kind of premium build. I thought, especially with Netflix moving on really no news yesterday, I thought there'd be some continuation. Folks trying to bid it up into earnings. Not following up today. It's down 2%. The calls are down. They're down like 35% to 410s. Still holding up some premium. If it broke 330 or so, maybe I'd look to salvage. At the same token, I don't want to be in a spot where they report a monster beat and raise on Tuesday and stock goes bonkers and I locked in calls for a big loss. So I'm not looking to do that. I'll hold on. I think Monday, even Tuesday, premiums will start to creep back in. They'll get back to even. I can either decide to take them off the table for flat. The ideal situation is to lock some in for profits and ride freebies. I don't know if I'll have that scenario will play out, but that's kind of the thought process there. I'm trying to think of some of the other names I'm looking at. Yext, just churning here, not doing much. Probably gonna need some kind of catalyst. Yeah, Pool, nice bounce yesterday on Pool. I was looking at strikes at the start of the week. It's just such an illiquid name. Doesn't move that. It's a slow mover, so hard to get in, hard to get out. Unless it's moving. Yesterday was a good opportunity to get some calls at the bottom, lock some in at the top, and now here it is back pretty much at the levels it was. Let's see, yesterday hit 329. So maybe it holds 330. I'll look to get some strikes. They report earnings next week as well. Have to think they're going to report some strong results and raise guidance. Great story. Stock is way off its highs. I think it was 420 in February. Let me just pull it up because I don't have it up here. It was a $600 stock at the start of 2022, and then you take a look at, yeah, start of February is $420. So not saying that means it's going to go back to $420, but I have to think there's some opportunity to play for some upside, even if it's just inline numbers. I think that's it, folks. I'll try and get back on audio later. Apologies for the audio yesterday. Had some issues. Audio is much better today. And that's it. Let's have a great day. I'll try to get back on later. Rock and roll.